Hi guys. Normally I'm in my landy having a bit of a rant, but these are extraordinary times, so I have asked one of my guys to come and have a chat. And we are very fortunate to have Dorian Yates. How are you doing, sir?
I'm doing well, mate. I'm, under house arrest here in Spain, but I've got good company. I've got the wife here and my dog and stuff, so I'm surviving.
There are worse places to be, Marbella.
Well, the weather's great, but you're not allowed to go outside. So, you know, they got some very draconian measures here. They got the military, they got the police on the street, and you're not allowed to walk your dog more than 50 meters from your house officially. I live in a quiet place, so they can't quite monitor me. I walk down the beach and see nobody and don't go within 6 feet of anybody. So how's that causing anybody harm?
Yeah.
But UK, you have more freedom. People are allowed to go outside and exercise. They're going to the parks and stuff, I see. So you've got a bit more.
We're supposed to be social distancing, so we're supposed to be keeping like 2 meters apart, but obviously people are abusing that. So these sort of civil liberties that have been taken away from us, I think we will actually be a little bit more draconian soon, and we will be on sort of a similar house arrest to you guys.
Well, we already spoke about that, so you know my opinion on it. I think I'll start a campaign, hug a coronavirus patient, hug them again.
Hey?
I think I'll start a campaign, hug a CV patient.
That's one way to get herd immunity.
Yeah.
But the thing is, the law has to apply to the lowest common denominator. And I think, unfortunately, people have abused the system for a long time, and the system's abusing us.
I think the system has abused the people for a long time. That's more relevant, mate. And it will be very interesting to see how things work out in Sweden.
Yeah.
Where they're not doing this, and they're allowing people to function. You know, the average person, they probably got enough money and enough food and everything to survive for 4 to 6 weeks. And now we're hitting that level in Italy. People are getting very desperate. The suicide rate's going up. People run out of money and food. Like, what do you want us to do now?
Yeah. So what are you doing for food? I mean, do people are still delivering and stuff?
Here it's fine, and the supermarkets have the food in, and people assumingly they have enough money to buy food for now, but that's not going to last long when people are not going to work and not receiving salaries.
Yeah, of course.
So it goes on much longer. The situation is going to get desperate, and to recover from this, the economy, I mean, it's just economic suicide, which I think may be one of the reasons behind it. Crash the economy and then present the alternative system which you already had in mind anyway.
Yeah, this Orwellian state that we've spoken about before. It's it's scary times.
Absolutely. People's freedoms have been taken away, and now is how do you get them back?
Yeah, but with adversity, what happens? Human spirit rises.
Yeah, well, I can see it happening. Some people are getting organised and asking questions, and a lot of questions need to be asked about this situation because it doesn't make sense. And there's a lot of the media. I mean, hopefully people can see now. I mean, all the mainstream media is owned by 6 corporations, so they just project whatever they want to project through all these channels at the same time.
Well, I think people were very blasé to start off with because we've been lied to for so long by government, by media, that you listen to the media and go, nah, you're right. I don't actually believe the garbage that you're spouting out. Yeah. And you know, it's only when you actually experience it firsthand do you actually go, okay, well, there is something going off. But you know, it's worrying because I mean, I've got 2 A&E consultant friends who work in the emergency department. One's got coronavirus with a pulse of 135, sats of 93. The other one's running around like a headless chicken. So I mean, it is real, but
what do you do? Flu's real as well.
Yeah.
And it kills 3 times more people than coronavirus in 2020. Since January the 1st to April the 1st, official figures, coronavirus about 45,000 deaths and normal flu 120,000 deaths.
I think one of the worrying things is it seems quite indiscriminate. So there are healthy people
Yeah,
becoming unwell, and there's also people who are not particularly healthy being okay. So it's a really peculiar virus, because my friend said he's intubated people in their 20s, and he's also seen incidental changes on an X-ray in an 80-year-old.
yeah.
It just seems peculiar. But surely the take-home message from this should be, from a health perspective, is look after your bloody health.
Look after yourself, and maybe more vulnerable people should have been isolated, and the rest of us get on with get on with life and keep things running. That's my opinion, but I'm not an expert, of course. I'm just a layman, and it's my opinion.
Yeah, I mean, there's obviously validity behind the herd immunity thing, but I just think the average human being nowadays is not at all healthy. So, you
No,
know,
it's true, but we're under maybe you can say we're under attack from multiple angles. You know, you got the food sources, which is pretty crap. You got to be really careful about what you eat. Most people maybe can't afford to do that.
mm,
You know, if you're on low income and you've got a family and you've got kids, it's all very well saying eat organic and all this stuff, but you know, if all you can afford is a pizza and it keeps the family alive, that's what,
yeah,
right?
but you know what? The actual real fruit and veg isn't actually that expensive. I mean, when I do my weekly shop on my website 3 times a week,
Yeah.
I get my fruit and veg, and it doesn't cost much. But you go buy a processed lasagna, and that's like 3 times the price. It's just crazy money. So
I don't know,
yeah,
man. You can go to McDonald's and get a meal for a couple of quid, can't you?
yeah.
You
I,
can't make a healthy meal for £2, man.
one
You
of
can
my
have a couple of apples, maybe. That's, you know. So anyway, the food is shitty. The air is shitty. They're just spraying heavy metals from the sky. They've stopped now. My sky is clear now. Every day there's crisscross of chemtrails over here, and that's all over the world. So you've got aluminum and barium and other stuff that you're breathing into your lungs all the time.
Well, it's interesting, isn't it? I mean, we've polluted the planet for so long, and there have been some like memes going around with like there are fish in Venice now, and you know nature's taking back.
Yeah,
And, looking at the global picture and seeing the lack of pollution, and you just think, wow, okay, it can heal itself. But
yeah,
you know,
true. That's
we need
true.
to continue on this kind of get away from the fact that we're animals, and we forget that, and it's like we're putting ourselves full of poisons constantly. We're exposing ourselves to poisons.
All around us. I mean, EMFs from all the Wi-Fi. It's not good for us. We can debate all day long how bad it is, but it's definitely not good. So you're getting hit with that kind of electrical radiation. The food's not good. The air's not good. We live in a bit of a toxic environment, so you can't control that, can you? You can
Well,
control health. You
yeah,
can't control the air you're breathing. I mean, you got to breathe, right? So
yeah.
maybe you can do something to reduce your exposure to EMFs. There's certain technologies out there, and just spending less time around it maybe is a good idea. But that's the environment where we live in now. So you kind of got to protect yourself from it.
I think it's simply just getting back to nature. You know, people that go to the country, move from the cities to the countryside, their health immediately improves. People start eating real food.
I'm sure, you know, I live by the beach here in Spain, and I feel way more healthier than I did when I was living in the UK, where the weather's not so good, and you know that I'm not exposed to nature so much. Living in Birmingham in the middle of the city, and you know, now we've got beach here, got mountains, so you got all that negative ionization that you get from all that, and the sun, of course, is so important for your health. Exposure to sun, exposure to the light. So yeah, I feel better here, but now everybody's got that choice, have they? So what can you do? The diet is so important, and reinforcing yourself, reinforcing your immune system with supplementation.
Yeah, listen, I can't say I'm feeling particularly sorry for you, stuck in Marbella on house arrest. It's like, you know,
Yeah, listen, man.
poor Dorian.
A jail cell, still a jail cell.
No, what? Listen on. No, no, no. Your mind is still free. Your mind is still
Yeah,
free.
it is free, but you know, just to not be able to move around and interact with other human beings. I think there's a whole program behind this. People are getting scared of each other now and don't go near each other. I have zero worries and zero fear about catching a virus. I'd rather get on with my life.
Mm. Well, yeah, I mean, it's interesting because obviously you want to take away some positives from this experience. Now, in England, you know, we've got the social distancing, but it's actually demonstrating a little bit of respect that was not there before. So you can look at respect, you can look at the fact people are appreciating the fact that they've lost their civil liberties. So now when they're released, they will appreciate it more, hopefully. But
Why should they appreciate it? Isn't that a God-given right?
yeah, but I think
Who should
people are,
they be appreciative to?
no, I'm not, it's not so they should be appreciative to anybody in particular, but
No.
in the fact that they should appreciate the fact that they are free, because we live in this state which is controlled by the six big businesses and companies. So,
Well, I would say that we're not free. We never have been free, and now it's very, very apparent that we're not, because somebody can click their fingers and say, right, that's it, you don't have any freedoms now. And we're waiting for them to click their fingers again, that when we can have those freedoms back. And I'm getting the increasing feeling that may never happen, or it'll be a very long time.
yeah, that they have said it's going to be years, and it's like, well, how? That's a pretty scary thought.
Just 1 month of closing down businesses is devastating to people and to the economy. And the longer it goes on, there will be a point of no return, no recovery, and I think that's the plan.
Well, it's especially devastating to entrepreneurs and small businesses who form the backbone of our countries.
Yes.
But you've got the big businesses, fine.
Well, that's I mean, that's ultimately the plan, to have all the business run by a few corporations and get rid of the small businesses and medium-sized businesses. It's all an agenda, and it's quite frustrating for me. Sometimes people can't see this.
Yeah. Well, what's okay? So what should we do?
Wow. Communicate, share, spread news. Stop listening to the mainstream media. Don't even fucking turn the TV on. Don't listen to it. They're lying to you. They're making you scared. They're making you scared of your neighbor. And we got, like, it was funny because I was looking on, it was on Netflix or Apple Box, I think. You know, top 40 movies.
Contagion.
I think there's 6 or 7 of them disaster contagious movies now. So people are watching those. Plus, they've been primed with those. There's even movies out there talking about a coronavirus that happened in Wuhan. There's a book out there. It's predictive programming. All these ideas are in our head before it happens, because all our thoughts are collective. So I'm actually joining a lot of mass meditations to try and change the energy. We joined one on Saturday evening. I don't know how many hundreds of thousands of people were on there, but there were. It was a global meditation. And I don't know if you're familiar with the Schumann resonance, which is like electrical energetic wavelength of the planet or something. Not very good at describing it. But anyway, so many hertz, the energy of the planet. And when this meditation was on, it was spiked right up. So we can have an influence. I think.
And I 100%.
Meditate, pray for a better world, because it's either going to go one way or the other here. There is no normal. Oh, I can't wait to get back to normal like it was a few months ago. Not happening. That is not happening. We're either going to wake up into a better world, or this nightmare is going to roll out.
I mean, there will always be contrasts. So good, evil, you know, it's yin and yang, isn't it? But you just have to sway it.
We live in a world of polarities, but I think dark forces have been in control too long, and perhaps they're losing control now, and this is a grab for power. Yeah. I mean, it's pretty somehow scary that you think the whole world can just be locked down within a week. And there's an interesting, I'm not sure it is on YouTube, but there's interesting, talking heads. So you've got about 20 world leaders saying, yeah, it's not a big deal, basically. The next week, the same people are saying this is a pandemic and you got to panic and it's whoa. All of them. So who's writing the script here?
Yeah, but do you see it as they've taken the opportunity? So, I mean, it is, as we said before, it's playing into a narrative.
Yeah.
It's playing perfectly. So, yeah, it's pretty freaky. But
It is.
they're taking advantage.
Why are countries that don't have any patience locking their citizens inside? Close your borders. You don't have any patience. How are they going to suddenly appear if it's an infectious disease? Doesn't make sense then, right?
We have very bizarre reactions to fear, because if you it's often I don't know why it's irrational, but it's irrational. I mean, in England they were buying toilet rolls. In America they're buying guns.
Yeah.
And it's like, what planet? Where's your brain? It's scary. What are they doing in Spain?
It wasn't too bad. I think people panicked a little bit for a couple of days when the news came out, but they can see that the supermarkets are stocked up and supplied, and there's no shortage, and there's no one single coronavirus death in this part of Spain where I live. So yeah, people are just staying at home, and you've got, of course, a English community, expat community, people from all around Europe, really. But the Spanish people are very, maybe it's from the Franco era. They're very compliant, and they're also like, if they see somebody out walking, they'll take pictures and they'll try to report them. And you got this kind of situation that you had in communist countries before, where the people are acting as a kind of a police force as well. So it's maybe a different mentality than people from UK. But this is where I'm living, and that's the situation we're in right now.
Yeah, I mean, I'd love to believe it was people thinking they were acting for the greater good, but
yeah. People are thinking that it's for the good. Just like people that will be clamoring to have a vaccine, they'll think it's for the good because they've been brainwashed.
So, coronavirus. Let's leave that there, because we could go for hours about that.
That's our ring. We could be here all day, mate, and still never get to the bottom of it. But we're living in some biblical times, man, and this never happened before in the history of mankind.
Yeah.
To lock down the whole world. I don't know if they had even the wherewithal to do that before, but when they had the Spanish flu, I don't know how many millions of people died from that.
Yeah, well, it's the idea that we now have science in our favor, and we are going to control the virus through the social isolation and letting some people out. Obviously, it's just that for say in England, it's because they don't want the NHS to be overburdened.
Well, we'll go back to that. My question then. You're a medical doctor. So we're in this situation because of this coronavirus, yet the flu is killing 3 times more people at the same time. So that happens every year. Why didn't we lock down previously then?
Yeah, this is a hypothesis, but I would think it's because it's unpredictable and the spread isn't known, so we don't know how virulent it is from the perspective of how easily it's spread. So I think it's the fear of the unknown. So I don't necessarily think it's obviously worse than flu, but it obviously is a little bit. But I just think it's the unknown, and I think that's being seen as an opportunity to start this plan.
Yeah.
But
very interestingly, like the media is saying that these hospitals are overrun and packed, and there may be, but a lot of places they're not. After Trump said there's a hospital in Queens in New York that's overloaded, and they got people coming out in body bags, and they got freezer trucks there. I mean, people live there, so they go out and they go and film it on their phones, and they're like, we're there, and it's happening to a lot of hospitals. There's nothing going on there; they're empty. So Of course, there's something. It would be stupid to say there's nothing, but it's been blown up. It's being blown up, and the fear is being blown up.
Why can't they just tell us the truth? I just don't get it. I just don't get it, because it is something that we need to be concerned about.
Because if people really knew the truth, and I'm not even going to go there with what I know, because it just not, people won't handle it, and they'll just think he's crazy, he's smoking too much weed. Yeah, but I've known what's going on for a long time, and the truth is almost too terrible for people to fucking realize what these people get up to. The elite kind of families that have global control and their minions.
Yeah, scary times. But I think, you know, from a flu perspective, it's certainly the people who are immunocompromised and the elderly. But the randomness of this is what's worrying. As I said, you know, there are 20-year-olds being intubated, but is it literally the fact that they look healthy on the outside, but deep down they're not healthy? But, you know, it's very superficially, I was healthy 20-year-olds, but is it genetic?
Interesting. I found out something the last few days. Interesting experiment they did in the Spanish flu, when the Spanish flu outbreak they did in America. They got hundreds of people, and they got infected people, and they took the snot from their nose and from the mouth, all this shit, yeah, and they rubbed it in the mouth, in the nose, on the eyes of hundreds of people, and nobody got infected. So okay, so now they took this snot and now they inject it into people. Nobody got infected. So that's interesting, Rob, isn't it not?
that is interestingly, but I
don't know if it's right or if it's wrong, but it's a very interesting theory. That's the first time that radio waves were used. So there's a change in the electrification of the planet, and we're electrical magnetic beings. So that increase affects people on a massive level. Yeah. And the first time satellites went up in 1968, there was a Hong Kong flu outbreak. The first time we had radar, there was a flu outbreak. When we had 2G, there was a flu outbreak. When there was 3G, we had a flu outbreak. So, yeah, maybe there's a connection there, right?
Well, there's no doubt that our modern society is making us sick. You know, so from a testosterone perspective, obviously there's risk factors, but I see a lot of guys who are young who have no risk factors, and they have no pathologies, and they just go, I don't know why I've got low testosterone. And it's like, well, yeah.
Well, it's the environment we live in. It's the environment we live in, right? And it's getting worse and worse environment. Probably when I was a kid and you were a kid, the environment was much more natural than it is now. Now you've got guys who are 30. I mean, they've grown up in this chemical, electromagnetic soup, right? And plastics everywhere and stuff like this. So the body's compromised already by the time they get to 30 years of age.
Well, the plastics is a massive issue because obviously that the BPA is an endocrine disruptor, and then we demand milk all year round, so you've got cattle just pumped full of estrogen all year round, which goes into our waterways. It's poisonous society. I mean, it is crazy.
We live in a poisonous environment, so obviously can't really control that. We are where we are, right? So, but you can try to reinforce your body and protect yourself from it by your diet, by supplementation, by meditation, by breathing exercises. I'm doing the Wim Hof breathing. I don't know if you've heard of Wim Hof.
Yeah, I was literally just about to ask you if you did Wim Hof.
So yeah, I've been doing Wim Hof breathing every morning now for about a year. I might miss a morning here and there. I do Wim Hof breathing and do meditation and a cold shower in the morning. That's my morning routine before I do anything. And that is super enhances your immune system. Because basically when you're doing the deep breathing, you're saturating your body, your cells with oxygen, and then you blow all the air out your lungs and you hold it. So then your reptilian brain, your primitive brain, picks up that you're not breathing. So it starts to go into survival mode and it starts cleaning the body out because it needs to survive. It's an emergency. It doesn't know that you've saturated your cells because it's not very smart. It's just reactive, right? The reptilian brain. So that's the theory behind that. Well, not a theory. It's proven in hospital. So that breathing method will really enhance your immunity, and it works great as well for anxiety. It just wash away all your anxiety as well. Again, because your body's releasing so much adrenaline because it's in this state where it thinks it's dying.
Have you read The Chimp Paradox by Professor Steve Peters? That talks about the brain, as in you've got the chimp brain, which is the primitive brain, and then you've got the human brain, which is the compassionate brain, and then you've got the computer, and it's that sort of dilemma of who do you listen to, and it's a matter of sort of like knowing, having that awareness of why you're reacting in such a way so that you can control it. But what you described, how long does it take?
Well, there's various, depends how many rounds you do. You can just go on YouTube, or you can get Wim Hof app, and that's all free. So the one I do in the morning, depends if I do 3 or 4 rounds, somewhere in between 15 and 20 minutes it takes to do 3 or 4 rounds of 40 or 50 breaths, and then you exhale. And people can get all the details online, but the point is that this strengthens your immunity.
So it's nothing, is it? 20 minutes.
Nothing. It's nothing. There's not a lot of time. Doesn't cost anything. You can go and buy Wim Hof stuff if you want, but he says, like, if you want all the courses, great, you can buy it. But I've got a free app, and you can go on YouTube. There's tons of them on there, and you really do feel good, because when your body goes into this survival mode and it starts panicking, it starts pumping out adrenaline. Yeah. And you definitely. I look forward to it in the morning. Like, might wake up a bit, I get a little bit of anxiety still sometimes in the early mornings when I wake up, and I go and I do this breathing, and it all dissipates, and it's a good way to start the day. And the cold showers on top of that is another way to kind of strengthen your immune system. And I take vitamin C, liposomal vitamin C, if you can, preferably, because the absorption's about 90%, where regular vitamin C, I believe, is about 20% that you're going to absorb. So if you take 1,000 milligrams of vitamin C, you probably only absorb about 200 milligrams, where with the liposomal, it's like 900. So it's much more efficient if you can get that. It's actually, I ordered some online, and there's a waiting now, because so much demand for vitamin C. So are aware of this.
Well, one of my guys has literally just produced liposomal vitamin C that he wanted me to head, but it just doesn't fit in with what I'm trying to do. So, but yeah, the absorption wise, much better.
And apparently they've used intravenous C in some of the coronavirus patients.
Yeah, New York, and they're also using it in London.
Yeah, and probably more important than vitamin C, maybe, is vitamin D. It's just really, really essential. And you can get blood tests to check your levels. I don't know, you probably know better than me the technicality of it, but it should be whatever the markers are, between 30 and 100, and upper end of that scale would be preferable. So I have quite a bit of, I like to check myself and make sure, I'm trying to function on optimal health, not just don't get sick, optimal.
100%.
Not deficient in a vitamin, optimal. So, and Gal did it as well. So Gal is Brazilian, she's in the sun all the time out here. I started going in the sun a lot. So I'm in the sun a lot, we're going to the beach, we're always, got my top off. I should have enough vitamin D, should be well up there, right? And I had my blood test, it was like 35. So I wasn't deficient, but I was on the bottom end of the scale, and that's with me going outside all the time in the sun. So if I was living in the UK, I'm sure it was under 30. Now I take 8,000 units a day of vitamin D.
Yeah.
And I'm up in around 75, 80 on that scale. So that's ideal. Of course, that's me, it might vary, but I would say everybody should be taking 4,000 or 5,000 IUs of vitamin D a day to maybe enhance your immune system.
Vitamin D is a big problem. I mean, and especially in the UK. I mean, you need the dietary source, but you also need the sunlight.
Yeah.
And in the UK, you just don't get it.
Well, I read an interesting study once, and this really hit home because I lost my father to a heart attack when I was 13, so it was 1975. And so I've always been a bit kind of maybe paranoid about this possibility because it's there in the family, right? Although I'm an old man, he didn't sleep much, he smoked a lot of cigarettes and he drank and, you know, all that kind of stuff.
But it was healthy back in the day, wasn't it, smoking?
Well, I remember probably in the 70s, like if a guy didn't smoke, people were asking questions like, you know, what's up with this guy?
Is he a bit funny?
He's like a bit of a fag or something, like, don't smoke. I mean, that was the culture, right? People didn't know it was that macho culture. Anyway, I read this very interesting article by, I don't know who it was now, but it was research into heart disease, you know, cholesterol levels, inflammation, all these different parameters. And he said, I only found one that really tracked with, you know, with the amount of heart disease and deaths and everything like that. And the conclusion he came to was heart attacks were at their peak in Europe when coal usage was at its peak. All these power stations and everybody using coal, right? So pumping all this into the atmosphere. And that was obviously blocking some UV from getting down so that people were not even producing vitamin D. And the heart attack rates were at a peak when the coal usage was at a peak. So that's
yeah. It's funny because it's obviously multifactorial, but if you look at the Mediterraneans, they a lot of them still smoke and they've got the lowest heart disease, but it's diet, vitamin D, sunlight. So you have to have that kind of appreciation that just because you don't smoke doesn't mean you're going to be healthy. You need to look at everything. Look at your diet, look at your exercise, look at your lifestyle. You know, we live in a world of peculiar stress, and it's
we're so removed from nature most of the time. And you know, I'm talking to you on this laptop, so it's obviously the world we live in, right? But I'll also make time to go out and walk in the mountains or walk in the woods or the forest or something and leave my phone behind and, you know, be around the plants and kind of get back to nature a little bit. So I do my best to balance it, but this, you know, the world we live in, right? You can't change all that. You can't go back and well, we could if we wanted to go back and live like the Amish and, you know, they're probably the healthiest people in the US.
But the problem is, I mean, we're just overstimulated, and with overstimulation, you don't ever concentrate on anything. So you just go.
Well, that's why meditation is important. I try to do this, and I break my own rules sometimes. Is to get up in the morning and do my breathing, do my meditation, do my cold shower, take time for myself before I open this device, this laptop, and my iPhone. And sometimes I don't. Sometimes I'm like, oh, you know, I'm as addicted to these devices as we all are. And I wonder what happened and who sent what and what's the news and what's new. And I want to look in my phone. And, you know, you start your day off with stress then.
Yeah, but it's a little dopamine hit.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, the people that made these devices and engineered the social media platforms and everything like that. I mean, some of them are coming out now. And actually, I saw some interviews with some of the guys that was involved in the early days of Facebook. Like, we've got a product here, so we wanted people to use it. So we designed it so that they're going to keep coming back.
Yeah.
And you know what? I feel bad about that now because we made this device that's, you know, can be destructive. But also, nothing is black and nothing is white, mate. That's the conclusion that I've come to. We've learned to think in very black and white terms, right? This is good, this is bad, and nothing is really like that. It's you know, if we use these devices to stay in touch with each other and spread information and so on and bring out the truth, then they're not bad. Then we're using them for something good. So nothing is either good or bad. It's just kind of what you do with it, right?
But people find a level of security from having a fixed belief, and then when that's challenged, and ultimately, if you do evolve and you become a little bit more conscious, you realize that that's all bullshit. You know, it's all shades of grey. You must have contrast in order to have balance. And
well, everyone has this
worrying.
picture. They have a picture of reality, and I mean, people can react really strongly if you try to challenge that. It's very disturbing for them.
Don't you dare.
This whole structure of what I thought the world was and how it works, and now you're telling me that's not right, and I'm like, I can't handle it. And shut the fuck up and leave me alone. And you know, even though it can even react violently when their belief systems are challenged.
Yeah, but I mean, the model is horrendous, but I mean, it's almost like a rite of passage, though. So, you know, growing up, Carl Jung said, you know, the first 40 years of life is developing a healthy ego, and the next 40 is spent looking internally to get rid of it. But
well,
it's almost like, but it's a path.
I'm about there, mate. I'm nearly 60. Well, I'm 58 very soon. So that sounds about right in my experience. You know, I built this ego and this, you know, the champion bodybuilder and all that was my identity. And of course, when I was forced to retire through injury, that was a big shock, and wasn't able to do this anymore. And all my plans and everything was just derailed, right? So then it's kind of a crisis you have to go through, and that leads you to questioning everything, really.
But do you think that was karma? Because in reality, you know, you'd led such an ego-driven, focused life that you were so goal-driven that you weren't appreciating the nuances and the wonderful kind of aspects that you now appreciate.
Oh yeah, I mean, you know, they say don't forget to smell the flowers along the way on the journey, and I definitely wasn't smelling any flowers, man. I was all business. It was all about getting to that goal. You know, all your energy and all your vision is channeled into getting to a goal. So you're not noticing what's really kind of going on around you, because you're projecting yourself into the future all the time.
So what do you think was at the core of that then?
What was the core of what? With that drive?
Of that drive, yeah.
Probably many psychological factors that you can go back to. Most of our drives come from childhood, so I could probably self-analyze and go back and, you know, I lost my father. I didn't feel like, even before I lost my father, I didn't feel like really, I was not in a loving, normal family relationship. So maybe that's the drive. Maybe the drive is to be noticed, to be loved, to, you know, get acceptance from people. Maybe that's part of it, but I also had a feeling always that I was not the same as everyone around me, and I was destined for something very different. I always had that very strong feeling.
Yeah, but you don't feel like that now, do you?
No, because I've gone through that phase of, you know, putting my mark on the world, I suppose. And now I'm talking about different things. And if I wasn't this Mr. Olympia winner, I wouldn't have a platform. People wouldn't be listening to me, would I? I'd just be a guy from Birmingham that no one, you know, no one's going to.
Yeah, but I think that's the point, though. I think, you know, you went down that road, and you went so far down that road that you were forced to change, whether it be through injury.
Nobody can continue this absolute tunnel vision with forever. I mean, you know, you're going to burn out, and I was burnt out physically and probably mentally and emotionally as well, where I kind of I had to walk away from bodybuilding a little bit to see, you know, and explore and learn, and outside of that, which a lot of people don't do because they get comfortable in that. You know, they're good at this. People recognize them. People give them respect. This is where they're comfortable. So why would they step outside of that? Normally, they just stay in that mold.
It's feeding that precious ego, isn't it?
Yeah. So I chose to, look outside of it and do other things and get more life experience and so on. And I had the freedom to do that, fortunately, for a while.
Well, I think it comes down to extremes, doesn't it? So you led a very extreme life to start off with, and now you went so extreme that you had to hit rock bottom, and then you've built yourself back up into this person that you are right now. But
yeah,
it's
I swung from being a guy that goes to bed at 11 o'clock every night and eats 6 meals every night, and it's got every single thing structured, to being a guy that would go out and take drugs and stay up for 3 nights in Vegas, and total, opposite. Yeah, so I had to swing to the opposite, and now I feel like the pendulum has swung into the middle, where I have balance.
You're talking about the good old days.
Well, I had some fun there until the I got out, fortunately, without, fairly unscathed, I think.
Listen, I always get told off when I start talking about the rave days, because Lydia says to me, a little glint comes in your eyes, and it's like, I had some cracking times.
Oh yeah, I mean, no doubt. I had some great times. I'm not saying I didn't, but the whole culture at some point is going to become destructive, right? I mean, anyone that's been in that, it's all fun and games to start with, but it starts not being so much fun. It starts being damaging, maybe psychologically, physically, and that's the time to get out.
Yeah, I mean, psychologically for sure, because if you've had a massive high that is artificial, and you've got to recuperate, you've got that low, takes time, and it takes longer and longer each time you do it, and you realize that you're creating this artificial high, and you're suffering. And
oh yeah, I mean, I used to go out and we'd do this when I first started going, and do a whole weekend, like take a couple of these and go out and just drink water, and it was fine after, right? And then a bit later, it's taking a couple of days to recover. You're not feeling good, you don't want to do anything, and then it's 3 days, and then you're like, hold on. So I'm having a good night out, but I'm having 4 shitty days afterwards.
As long as by Friday, when you hear a good tune and you feel those prickles on the back of your neck, as long as that happens, you're going, I'm good to go.
Well, I wasn't really in the rave scene, because that was more like 90s in UK, and I didn't really start hitting the nightclubs and stuff until in the 2000s. So the rave scene, as far as having these big outdoor rave, that was all over. But it was still going on in the nightclubs, and I went to New York, Vegas, London. I've been every nightclub in the world. They have security that go to the gym, and they know who Dorian Yates is. So I usually get VIP treatment, get a table and all that stuff. So yeah, I mean, it had to be done, I guess, because it was extreme. I missed out on a lot of stuff, and I had to make up for it. And now I'm like, yeah, I've done all that stuff. Not even vaguely interested in doing that now. I want to, appreciate my health and feel good. And
listen, I think I've got one more rave left in me.
Sorry?
I think I've got one more rave left in me.
You know what we should do, Rob? We should fucking have a coronavirus rave. As soon and if that is fucking possible.
Okay, that's a date. We'll do it. I mean, the thing is, I don't have any regrets, but I'm pretty sure that the prolific drug scene, whether that be steroids, whether that be recreational drugs, has an ultimately negative impact on, number one, mental health, but also the physical health. So from steroids perspective, did you use up until your injury?
Yeah, I mean, I was using on and off since from 1985, when I did my first official contest. I did my first contest. I did natural. I'd only been training like 6 months. The guy that owned the gym where I was training, which eventually became Temple Gym, that most people know about if they're into bodybuilding. But when I started, it wasn't my gym. It was another guy that was running the gym at that point. And I had been there training. You know, I did some little bit of training when I was at school. I did some training when I was in the detention center. So I had some experience. And when I was in the detention center and I realized where I was and what, you know, what the future could be, and I was in there with a few hundred lads, and I had the best physique, and was more or less the strongest there as well. So I recognize I have something here that I can be good at. So when I get out and I get my life on track, I'm going to do this. It was nothing casual. I'm going to do this, and I want to win contests. But anyway, once I started training, I did about 6 months real great training, and the guy in the gym was a photographer. He used to work for the police actually sometimes, and he said, "Can I take some pictures of you?" And those, you can find them on the internet, where I got a pair of grey old 80s style running shorts on. Those pictures were taken about 6 or 7 months into the training. And he said, "We've got a contest coming up in a few weeks, just Mr. Birmingham, you know, between all the local gyms. How about you go in the novice class?" I'm like, no, you know, I'm not ready. And I don't know what happened, but I got sick. I got a flu or a cold or something, and I was off for about a week, and I couldn't eat much. I looked in the mirror at home and I was like, shit, man, shredded, man. How about I do that contest? So I went to that contest and I competed against lads that, you know, they were already using, but obviously my genetics were better, and I won that contest. So the first one was nothing. The second one, when I stepped up into the IFBB, I used a little bit there to get ready for that. So I think from 85 to 98, so 13 years on and off, I was using the.
So you've been very candid about it. What's the reason?
What's the reason? What?
Why you've been so open about it all?
Why not?
Well, no, I know, but
because just being honest and sharing your experiences can be helpful to other people. So I'm just saying, look, this is how it is: the good, the bad, the ugly, and my opinion on it. But ultimately, it's all up to you, man. We all make our choices, right? I'm going to have to plug in, man, because my battery's getting low. So I'm just going to shift location.
Well, I think that's it. Can you still hear me?
Yeah, just let me get plugged in, man. And we can. So I'm honest because why not, man? I don't have anything to hide. This is what happened. This is the story. And if you're telling your story, then you can't tell half of it. And if somebody can benefit from my story, then I think that's a good thing. So I just tell it how it is, man. And I always had this this thing: steroids are a tool of the trade. If you want to be a competitive bodybuilder, and absolutely, if you want to be a professional bodybuilder, you can't do it without it. That is the truth.
Yeah, I mean, it's no secret now, is it?
No, and this is what happened to me, and this is my opinion. And I turned professional in 1990, went for my first show, and I said to myself, if I don't place in the top 5 of this contest, this first professional contest, then I won't compete again. Because it just shows I haven't got what it takes to be like really one of the best, which is my goal, and to make a living also. I was making okay living from the gym anyway, so if I had taken all that energy that I was putting into being totally dedicated to competing, I could have opened more gyms and made a living like that. So I said also, if I don't compete, I will not be taking steroids, because they're a tool. Because I'm competing, they're not there so I can be the big guy and boost my ego or something like that, which is the case with a lot of people. So anyway, 1990, I got second, so the career continued. In 1998, I realized I had surgery on my tricep and I wasn't able to compete again. That, you know, I was being realistic. So now, why am I taking steroids? I'm going to stop. And there was nobody like yourself There's other guys on the internet now. You can go find guys in the States that have a practice that work with athletes and they know what they're doing. And there was nobody at that time. There was a guy in Birmingham that I went to see at Bupa Hospital who was an endocrinologist. And I was talking to him and he's like, I said, what do you think? Like, should I take HCG to like boost my natural testosterone and this and that? And he's just like, Dorian, you know, to be honest, you probably know more about this than me. And I thought, fucking hell, like, thanks.
Listen, times haven't changed.
You know what I did?
Really
I just fucking stopped. I just stopped after 12 years of heavy usage. I just stopped using testosterone, and I didn't understand what was happening to me. I felt like I was losing my mind, really. I just was awake at night with what I know now is severe anxiety, but then it was just like fear. I didn't know what was going on, and I couldn't even really make a decision. Like, you know, even my decision, it's just everything was like, nothing was really working very well, and I didn't even recognize what it was at first. And nobody around me could tell me what it was until I said, you know what, I'm just gonna take a little testosterone then. Because I'm very black and white in my thinking then. Okay, I'm not taking steroids now. I've made a commitment to myself. Yeah, I'm going to stick to it. I'm not a junkie. I don't need it. Well, obviously what happened, my testosterone levels, I think it was about after a year, they were still like, they were not recovering. So if they're not recovering after a year, I think I got to admit then it's not going to happen, right?
You've only got a finite amount of time on this planet. And, you know, if your lifestyle's in check, if your nutrition's in check, if your exercise is in check, you know, there are things that you know people can do now to try and boost their HPG axis. But, you know, you've only got so many years on this planet.
Yeah, and now I know, okay, if we're taking the amount of testosterone and steroids that competitive athletes do, obviously it's way over what's necessary, and there will be possible negative consequences to that. Possible, depending on the individual. But there are massive health benefits of putting your testosterone in the normal range when it's suppressed, whether that's from using steroids or whether that's just your metabolism or aging or whatever the cause is. It doesn't really matter. The situation is the same. If you've got low testosterone, you're opening yourself up for physical and mental problems.
100%. I mean, the major presenting symptom here is an element of mental health. So it's low mood, anxiety, depersonalization. Then it's fatigue. Fatigue and brain fog. So what you were describing earlier is what we call brain fog now.
Brain fog, man. That's a good word, because that's literally how I felt like I had a jelly in my brain or something. I just couldn't. You know, that positivity, that assertiveness that obviously comes from testosterone. None of that's there. I mean, the surprising thing to me is like I never totally lost my sex drive or ability to perform or anything. That was still good. So everybody's different how they react, I suppose.
Well, I think that's it, and I think everybody's an individual. So much like your TRT protocol, yours is individual to you.
Yeah.
Because you have to be aware of the nuances. So banging in 500 milligrams of testosterone for a 12-week cycle, it's like, oh, I feel amazing. But it's like, yeah, but do you realize what impact that's having on your body? It's like, okay, but I want muscles, fine. But do you actually realize what's happening? So from a psychological perspective, how did you feel on steroids?
You mean when I was competing?
Yeah.
Well, like I could run through the fucking brick wall. I mean, really, I really felt indestructible, and to a degree I was, but I managed to destroy myself in the end with injuries, because I just pushed my body. Like my mind wouldn't accept no from the body. So the body, oh no, I'm sore, I'm hurting. No, fuck you, you're doing it. It's like overriding all the time. So I did get injured with this absolute drive. But the thing is, that got me there as well. That got me from being in a backstreet gym in Birmingham to competing against the best in the world, which nobody could believe that, you know, that would be possible, really. So that absolute push, that drive got me there. But in the end, it needed to be controlled and tempered, because it's like being on a racetrack and just keeping your foot on an accelerator all the time.
Yeah, I think that's one of the cardinal things that people don't appreciate is the psychological impact, because I feel amazing. I'm glad you feel amazing.
Yeah.
But if you realize that that is not sustainable, if you're not competing, you're not going to be Mr. Olympia. Take a little step back and go, why are you doing this? Because with every high, there's a low. And if it's an artificial high, there's a longer low.
There's a low if you stop. But if you don't stop, that's the case. But that's what happens with people. And when they ask me, I have people coming to train with me, and they ask me about steroids. And if they're competing, I said, look, you know, if you're competing and you want my advice, I'll give it, and so on. But if you're not, then of course it's always up to you. I don't tell people what they should do, but I say, in my opinion, is not worth it, because the gains that you get and the positive feeling you get and all these positive things that you want, right? But what happens when you stop and you lose all those gains?
Which you will.
Which you will. Don't be kidding yourself. Yeah, you will. Yeah. And so a lot of people get into bodybuilding because they feel insecure, and then they get this muscle mass, which then gives them a feeling of security. Perhaps they're treated differently by people now. Perhaps they're treated with more respect now, because now they're physically bigger and more imposing. So you're looking at losing all that. You're going to lose this physical appearance of strength, and you're going to lose something mentally. So what's going to happen? You're going to jump right back on. So I think there's such a thing as a steroid addiction, because I know guys that will never stop. As long as they live, they will not stop, because they can't get into this, or they don't want to get into this situation where they're losing this muscle mass they put on, because it's had such an effect on the way they feel and the way they feel that other people treat them, and so on and so on. So it's not a physical addiction as such, but it's more a psychological.
I mean, it's a physical addiction from the perspective that if you stop, you are gonna be hypogonadal.
Yes. So maybe there's definitely a physical aspect to it as well. There's physical and a mental aspect to it, and I call it the merry-go-round. So, mate, be careful once you step on that merry-go-round, because you can't get off.
Well, the funny thing is, I mean, I'd say about 40% of my guys have done gear before, and you don't have to have done multiple cycles. It can just be one cycle. And if people, everything's a risk-reward discussion, isn't it? Everything in life, nothing's black, nothing's white, and that's the same with your decisions. And we've been given the ability to choose. So give people the information. Otherwise, they are going to make bad choices. And if you make a bad choice and you've been given all the information, it's up to you, mate. You've done that. You've been presented to them.
That's what I do with people who I train. And if they're young guys, I get young guys coming to me, I actively discourage them. I say, wait, because you can grow naturally for a while. Anyway, you've got a ton of testosterone in your body, you're 20, 21 years old and so on. So trying to maximize that a little bit, give yourself, if you wait a year or two, you're still really young. So try to get the most out you can out of it naturally. And then if you want to compete, if that's the road you want to go down, then at some point you're going to have to make a choice whether you want to do that or not.
Risk reward, always. Yeah. And just have the information.
I took a calculated risk by using steroids. And I guess for me, it worked out, right? Because I built a career on it.
And Dorian, it worked for me as well, because you're sat here now.
Okay. Yeah. So, and I have had so many tests done, and I continue to always. I have blood tests probably every 2 months, as you know, because I usually share them with you. touch wood. I'm in very good health, and but you know, I'm a believer that your body has an incredible ability to recover and regenerate itself, just if you give it the right things and the right
Yeah.
environment. So
You've
even
got to
if
be
you don't
kind.
damage yourself, you can recover from it. I'm very sure of that.
When you're young, I mean, you know, we've all been through it. You're invincible. You really are invincible. I remember coming out of clubs at 8 o'clock, going to an after-hours club till midday, laughing at the poor idiots that are
Yeah,
just waking up,
yeah.
and it's like, yeah, fucking hell, I'm amazing. You know, testosterone's up through the roof. I'm
Yeah.
high as a kite. Amazing. It's gonna crash eventually, but so you have to appreciate that. Yeah, it's risk reward, and yeah, life is all about
Oh, yeah, good
choices.
thing that you're around and some other doctors are around now that can really give people advice. I wish that was available when I retired. I probably would have had an easier time of it if somebody was like helping me through that. You know, listen, mate, don't just stop cold turkey because that's going to be very bad for you. Let's do it like this, and it's you know, whatever the protocol was. So, and maybe guys that are competing and they getting older or whatever the reason is, they want to get out of this and they want to be healthy, then someone like you could help them, guide them through that process.
Yeah, I mean, the way that things are, we can have no association with steroids because what it's doing is it's unfortunately preventing people who need testosterone replacement therapy from having access to it, because
Yeah,
the traditional medicine here is pretty regressive still. So you're kind of going, I'm acting in the best interest of the patient, but it's like, I don't care. Well, this it's XYZ. That's all we go by. It's like, hold on, we need to be a little bit more thoughtful about this. So I have to be super strict with my. I've thrown 2 guys off. One who said he won a classics competition, and he was telling everybody he got his TRT from me and he got his steroids from. And I was like, are you retarded? I said, you know, you're off. I told you from the very start we can have no association,
yeah.
because there are guys out there who are not having access to care because of this association. It's
So what's the deal in the UK then? Let's say I go to the doctor and I said I feel shitty. I feel like my testosterone might be low. And they do a blood test and it's low. Will they then prescribe testosterone? Is it as straightforward as that or not? Okay.
it's a shitstorm, honestly. It's random. It's like a postcode lottery. So you can go, if you can convince your doctor to do a test, you have to be obviously below range. And now the range is like, so for guys in the UK, 12 to 29. 12 is the testosterone of an 80-year-old, because they don't take the age into consideration when working out the reference range.
Yeah.
So you can be 25, have testosterone at 12,
Is
and
this
they go, you're
free
fine.
testosterone we're talking about?
Yeah, but you know, if the doctors were educated, then you could lead on to the fact that my free testosterone needs to be calculate my SHBG, but they're not. So what we're really trying to do is educate, because we're doing it from the ground up, because the big boys don't care. You know, the NHS does not care. It's firefighting, isn't it? You know, it's doing curative stuff. So testosterone, that's obviously steroids, and is all about muscles and sex, is not on their agenda. And you can kind of understand it, because obviously they need
But
to
why is
prioritize
it
it.
that females can easily get hormone replacement, but a male can't? And it's so, you know, both of being deficient as a woman or a man is going to affect your health in a negative way.
What I'm going to say, steroids.
Yeah.
That's what it is. It's as black and white as that, and it's as dogmatic as that. It's because of that association. They couldn't care less. And it doesn't matter how you feel. So you go to the doctors and you talk about testosterone and you say, I've got a low mood or anxiety, have some antidepressants.
Yeah.
So, but that's not my problem. I'm not depressed. Why is serotonin going to help me if I've got hormone deficiency? Your hormones are fine. They're fine.
Yeah.
No. They're not. So most of my guys have been to the doctor and they've had offered, well, they've either had or they've offered antidepressants and or Viagra. Bang. Because it's quick. It's a quick fix.
Yeah.
I mean, I spend, as you know, a long time with you guys because it's super important. It's a complicated subject. It isn't wham bam, thank you, ma'am. And I think GPs don't have time. Endocrinologists don't have an interest. You know, as you say, females can go to the doctor to get HRT, but it's still a sledgehammer approach. It's there you go. There's your drug.
Yeah, one size fits all.
Yeah.
Medicine. Yeah.
There's no titration. There's no appreciation that you're an individual. There's no appreciation that physiology changes, so you might have to be followed up.
Yeah, you might be, what worked a few years ago might not necessarily work now. You're older and so on.
Yeah, I mean, it's absurd, but they're just not interested. I mean, you can go if you want a sex change, you can have your testosterone or have your estrogen, and they won't bat an eyelid because they can't be seen to be politically incorrect. You know, but if you're thinking about,
crazy. So a woman can go and get testosterone because she wants to be a man, but a man who's deficient in testosterone can't get it.
Don't you oppress me? Don't you oppress me? It's like Life of Brian, Loretta.
Yeah, but then this is why guys from the gym just don't even go to the doctors and they try to handle this thing all themselves.
Yeah.
That's what I did for so long. I just like, I'm just going to take a shot of test a week and I should be all right on that. And that's what I did because I didn't even really have the care myself. So I take care of myself, you know?
Yeah, I mean, I think, you know, when it comes down to it, you are in control of your own health, and there is a very easy road to take in self-medicating. But you know when you're actually being properly looked after, and your hormones are balanced, that you go, okay, now I feel pretty good. Yeah. It's now I'm looking after all my other health parameters. So we did a harm minimization talk at Body Power. Obviously, you know Body Power.
Yeah.
And I was invited to talk, and I was alongside some bodybuildery type people, and it turned into, how do you take steroids? And I was like, mate, I was here to talk about the positives and negatives, and give you an objective view. And all you want to know is how to take a steroid. So I did a little bit of a microphone drop and just walked out. So I can't be part of this because, you know, as much as I want to advise you of a safe route, this is not a safe route because you are listening to the wrong people. And it's like, the internet's given a voice for idiots. And
well, you know, it's good and bad and in between, right? It's everything. It's sifting through all the information, though, that average guy is going to have a problem with.
Yeah, I mean,
put bodybuilders aside, how many middle-aged guys are out there suffering from health problems and being given medication for those health problems, that giving them other health problems and so on, that could be, you know, they could just be put right with a little testosterone, basically.
Antidepressants is my biggest bugbear because it can cause low testosterone, but the number of guys out there that are on antidepressants and what they actually need is testosterone is incredible. And
I've got a question for you, Rob. Which one makes the most profit?
What?
Which one makes the most profit for the pharmaceutical companies?
Yeah, one guess. The thing
is there a reason that most pharmaceutical companies don't even produce steroids now? Something to do with patents and profits and so on. I mean, you know, in the 90s, all the steroids on the market were pharmaceutical produced, but they just stopped producing them, mostly apart from a little Deca and testosterone, it seems to me.
Listen, what would happen if everybody was healthy?
Then they will be out of business.
Yeah, I mean, exactly. You've got to keep the shareholders happy, haven't you?
Yeah.
So you're just there going, I can sell you metformin, I can sell you fluoxetine, I can sell you candesartan, I can sell you everything. But what I should do is give you testosterone. But I don't know, that'd be silly.
Are you familiar with a book called The Ageless Man?
Yes. Yeah, I think you mentioned it on a podcast.
Yeah, because I got a doctor here that's helping me sometimes, and he's French, so he had a copy that was only in French, and now they put it into English. Very interesting. It's nothing to do with athletes or bodybuilding, just men with health problems that were, you know, solved by using small amounts of testosterone or dehydrotestosterone and different things the doctor was using. Very interesting. Even with multiple health problems, 3 or 4 different, diabetes and arthritis and different things, and they were able to recover from that, and depression, and not using any other pharmaceuticals apart from testosterone or related.
Yeah, I mean, it doesn't take a rocket scientist to work out the fundamentals: lifestyle, nutrition, exercise, then hormonal health.
Yeah.
And then if you can't optimize your health that way, add in medicine. But we're humans. We reach to the path of least resistance because it's easy, and it's that dopamine thing, risk reward. So do I want to work for that solution, or do I want to just get it? And humans go, yeah, I get it. It's fine.
Yeah, well, most people would rather take a blood pressure drug or a diabetes drug than changing their diet.
We're talking about statins. I was appalled. One of them, an acquaintance, he said, I don't need to worry about what I eat because I'm on a statin. And I was like, okay, listen, just move away.
Yeah.
Move away. Just what's the point? But with attitudes like that, you just there going, all I can do is present you with the information.
Yeah.
And if you want to take that information and run with it, brilliant. But I'm not going to flog a dead horse here. I'm going to give you it. You're going to go and listen to an idiot because that's more seductive, and that's more, it seems more attractive because you don't have to work at it. But when you realize any reward needs effort, and the value from that effort will make that reward 10 times better, will you do it now? But I'm gonna go over there because it's easy, quick.
All you can do is play your part, right? As long as you're doing what you can do as a professional, as a doctor, and giving good advice, people can take it or leave it. It's up to them, isn't it?
Yeah. It's the internet absolutely drives me mad, and I really shouldn't look at it because it almost gives me anxiety. I'm going, I'm going to put my vlogs out and just give my little rants, and talk to people
now you have like an overload of information. But on the other hand, when I was a kid, we had the Underground Steroid book by Dan Duchesne, photocopied.
Yeah.
I mean, that's literally all we had. And who was Dan Duchesne? I mean, steroid guru. Was just a guy, it wasn't a doctor. It didn't even have a good physique, but somehow he became the steroid guru. And that's literally the only information we had. There was no internet. There was no books. There was no occasional little article in a magazine if you were lucky. Very little information. It was just word of mouth. So now you've got a ton of information. Majority of it might be not good information, but at least there are people out there that you can contact, and like yourself, somebody qualified with experience.
Well, I think it's one of those things that you have to be able to tell shit from Shinola.
Yeah.
You have to, and it's almost, as we know, a rite of passage. You might go down that path, and that might be the wrong path. But as long as that other path hasn't shut, then make your mistake. That's fine. You were presented with all the information. You decided to do this, so ultimately it's your responsibility. And I think that's the thing that most people have a problem with, is accepting responsibility. Because if you've got the government that we've spoken about before, which is governing your mind, and you go, yes sir, thank you sir, you go, well actually that's bullshit. I want to find my own path, but you might make some mistakes on the way, but as long as that path, the right path, is still there, it is what it is. It's your journey, isn't it?
Exactly. Well, at least the information's out there, and in the UK, people can find some good advice if they want to, maybe get off steroids and do it in a healthy way, right? Or maybe they're just middle age, and it's a consequence that your own levels are getting lower.
Honestly, I do not have an average patient.
Yeah.
So it's 20-year-olds who've done nothing wrong.
And really get guys in the 20s with deficient testosterone.
You honestly wouldn't believe it, and it's like, I haven't done anything wrong. And it's like we test, and then we test again, and we have we check the lifestyle, nutrition, the exercise, and we go, okay, listen, you've only got 80 years on this world. So yeah, it's in your best interests from not only a mental health perspective, but also all the other physical parameters that are influenced by testosterone. It's such an important hormone. But you can go, oh no, it's a bit borderline, It's like, well, you need to have a confirmed deficiency. But wow, it's a scary time that people that have done nothing wrong. And I mean, there's no judgment here. I'm a bit of a bad boy, obviously, but there are people that have done nothing wrong. There are diabetics who have eaten themselves into diabetes, have metformin, have glycoside, have this.
Yeah.
There's a double standard that exists between the health professionals saying, right, you might have eaten yourself into diabetes, but here's some tablets and da-da-da. But okay, you've made some bad choices in life and you've got low testosterone. No, can't have it.
Yeah, but talking about the pharmaceutical industry, right? It's an industry that it's industry driven to make profits, and as we discussed, I don't know how much profit they make on all these other drugs, but they don't make anything or very little on testosterone. So why is it on their radar? That's just not interesting, right?
You can kind of understand it. I mean, and I think in America, some of the TRTs is on insurance because they can see the long-term benefits of somebody being on TRT for 30 years and not needing metformin, not needing a blood pressure tablet. So they look at that risk-reward cost-benefit thing and they go, actually, testosterone can be cheap as chips.
Yeah.
So let's give testosterone, because that loyal customer of 30 years is actually, we're going to save money.
Yeah, that's a business decision by the insurance companies, right?
Yeah, but the NHS, their whole budget is based on short-term outcomes, demonstrable outcomes. So you've got that kind of, okay, we've got £5 million, we've got 2 years, we need to demonstrate this change. Do we give people testosterone that's going to make them healthy for 30 years, or do we give them a toxic statin that we can demonstrate causes a reduction in cholesterol, which, by the way, is the precursor to pregnenolone, that then cascades down to cortisol, aldosterone, and testosterone? We can do that, but listen, don't worry about it polluting the liver, but we can demonstrate. So let's put our money into that.
Yeah, lower your cholesterol, which means nothing.
It's crazy, absolutely crazy. So yes, I mean, it's a weird model, but I mean, the NHS is likely to be privatized at some stage. So, we may have more access to progressive people going, yeah, there's a cost benefit here. So testosterone, but at the moment, if you want decent care, you need to go private, because you go to the NHS, you'll be given Nabido every 12 weeks, and or Sustanon every 3 weeks, or Anantha every 3 weeks. And if you understand pharmacokinetics, peak trough, hormones need to be stable every single day.
Yeah, I had a friend that was on testosterone replacement from his doctor, I guess, and that's the protocol. They were giving him Sustanon every month, I think. And he was telling me, like, hey man, I don't know what's going on. He said, but I feel really good for 2 weeks, and then I feel shit for 2 weeks. I'm like, yeah, no shit, man.
You will. That's the nature.
Your levels are dropping after a couple of weeks. Obviously, that's the answer. So you need to relook at that protocol. But this doctor's giving it him, and most people blindly are going to believe in their doctor without asking too many questions.
Yeah, well, the information's out there now, and we've had referrals from NHS GPs. We've had a referral from a professor of endocrinology, and because of our microdosing practice of daily injections, we've actually got NHS doctors saying, yeah, that's okay, do it. But it's so hit or miss. It's it's potluck.
Well, I get a lot of people contacting me, asking questions, and if they're from UK, I refer them to yourself if they need advice. So I continue to do that. And you're only one man. Do what you can, Rob. That's what we all can do, right?
Well, exactly. It's about spreading the right message, isn't it? and just sifting through the bullshit and going, right, okay, there you go. These are the facts. You might be allured to that avenue, but these are the facts.
Well, you know, it's all about having the best quality of life you can, man. That's what I'm all about. So it's nutrition, it's hormones, it's supplementation, it's exercise, it's meditation, all those things, put all those things together. That's optimizing my mental, physical, and spiritual health is where I've got to now, like 20 years after finishing bodybuilding.
But I think that's the funny thing is, I mean, you know, as we've alluded to before, we were invincible. I'm sure every young man's invincible. Yeah. And then
1,000 milligrams of testosterone a week to that.
That helps a little bit.
I'm not recommending that to anybody, by the way.
But one day you crash, and I mean, you know, it's inevitable because you need to have balance. And you know, I always talk about, because I mean, I always actively promote against high levels because of the negative health consequences of having high levels. But it's also a philosophical thing. It's also that appreciation of contrast. So you've got anabolic hormones and you've got catabolic hormones. So if you have a predominance of anabolic, what happens to the catabolic hormones? So everything is about, in order to establish harmony, you have to have contrast. So if you go too high, then what happens to the contrasting element of this discussion? So it should be common sense, but it isn't, because we're fed this more, and we're all guilty of it.
Yeah.
Just take one pill. Nah, fuck it, take two.
More is better.
And more is always better, isn't it? Until it's not.
I mean, I'll be frank with you, like just what guys have found out through the years, trial and error using steroids.
Yeah.
It may be true to a certain point, but then there's a point where then it becomes destructive and nobody really knows where that peak is. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of valuable information that's been taken out of steroids that we've used. So, I mean, the use of HCG has come from steroids because it was used as male infertility drug. And the steroid boys go, right, okay, I don't want my nuts shrinking and I want to remain fertile. So they used it, but we use it as a matter of routine to maintain function and to preserve fertility and testicular size. But if you go to the NHS and you say, right, I've got testosterone deficiency, I'm on TRT. Okay, I want to procreate. Well, you're going to have to come off TRT and you're going to have to use HCG. So why can't I use HCG alongside testosterone? Because the computer says no, and because the steroid boys do it.
Yeah.
So when I say about we have to have that distinction, honestly, it's got to be strict, because we had a GMC concern and it was centered around the use of HCG and another couple of things, which is more promoting high levels. This woman, I know I shouldn't really say too much. The HCG thing was funny because she goes, I still don't understand why you use HCG. And in the next sentence, she goes, oh, and I'm pleased to report his wife is pregnant. I was like, you've just answered your own question. And it's like, because it's associated with bodybuilding, they just stop. The shutters come down because they can't take anything from the bodybuilding world and steroid world because it must be inherently evil. What the hell's wrong with people?
Yeah. So, well, listen, if it works, it works. And if it makes people healthier, then that's what it's all about, man. That should be the goal of a health professional, shouldn't it? Surely helping people to be healthy.
You'd hope so, wouldn't you?
Yeah. Anyway, bro, I got to go, man. The sun's out. I'm doing some sunbathing.
Listen, thank you very much for your time, Dorian. It's been an absolute pleasure.
It's a pleasure. And hopefully if people in need in UK find your practice, mate.
Yeah, good man. Thank you very much.
Cheers, guys.
Cool. Ta-da.